Today on FCT Environment Update, we take a look at environmental conservation in the FCT. The Federal Ministry of Environment says it has stepped up environmental education and advocacy campaign across the country ahead of the predicted heavy rainfall and floods this year. The Minister of Environment, Hadiza Lafia, said the tempo of activities relating to erosion, flood, and environmental sanitation be stepped up to avert another flood-related disasters in the country. She called for immediate implementation of the resolutions of the various stakeholders' meetings and recommendations of committees set up after the 2012 floods. She directed that educational jingles, which had already been produced in English, Pidgin, and 3 widely used Nigerian languages, be broadcast on national, regional, and state television and radio stations to reach the broadest spectrum of the populace with appropriate messages. An environmentalist, Mr. Nimmo Bassi, has said that the last landslide incident in Okolobo community in the Kolokuma-Opokuma local government area of Bayelsa was the effect of climate change. The landslide destroyed more than 8 houses along a river bank and rendered several families homeless. According to him, field findings showed that recurrent landslide incidents are induced by human activities. He said that the fragile Niger Delta ecosystem, which had been exposed to serious pressure by the climate change phenomenon, was further worsened by oil exploration activities.
Abuja is a beautiful city and the preferred tourist destination in Africa. Let us keep our environment clean by trimming flowers and cutting grass around us regularly. Dispose of our refuse in waste bins and stop all forms of environmental pollution because they are injurious to our health. Report bleeding manhole to the appropriate authorities and disease from illegal connection to sewage lines. Hawking, trading, and begging on the streets of Abuja are prohibited. So also is prostitution. Do not harass AEPB staff members in the line of duty. If you are caught, you will face the law. If we cultivate a culture of a clean environment and pay our environmental service charge promptly, Abuja will remain the pride of all Nigerians.
This message is proudly sponsored by the FCT United Nations Development Assistance Framework UNDAF 2. The Abuja Environmental Protection Board looks to conserve the natural environment and ecosystems, ensure effective ecosystems function, and preserve the biodiversity in the environment. This task is carried out through its Department of Environmental Conservation. The men and women in that department work to minimize the impacts of development on the environment through sustainable use of the natural resources and promotion of global best practices and adaptable technologies. They also strive to decrease vulnerability and improve adaptation capacity among local communities associated with climate change.
A major function is to conserve the environment, the natural environment and the ecosystems, to ensure effective functioning and also to minimize the impacts of development on environment through sustainable use of the natural resources, and also to decrease vulnerability and improve adaptation capacity among the local communities associated with things like climate change.
The Environmental Conservation Department of the Abuja Environmental Protection Board is responsible for the management of conservation areas. After identifying such areas, the department coordinates environmental conservation studies, develop a database on flora, fauna, ecosystems, endangered species, invasive species, and also develop action plans for implementation of national programs, international bilateral conventions, and protocols on environmental conservation. The Watershed Management Unit in the Environmental Conservation Department carries out activities such as managing the intra-territorial watercourses, wetlands, stream valleys, floodplains, buffer zones, and green belts, controlling all anthropogenic activities, such as illegal sand dredging, encroachment and diversion of waterways, agricultural practices, and indiscriminate discharge of pollutants such as agrochemicals, wastes, and oil. Activities of the Ecological Restoration Unit include the identification and management of blighted, that is, degraded landscapes and natural landforms, coordination of ecological restoration programs, bush burning control, erosion control, and cemetery management. The unit responsible for urban trees management carries out monitoring and management of avenue trees, economic trees, control of illegal tree falling, development and management of woodlots, and afforestation programs. The Federal Capital Territory Administration is proactive towards climate change issues and has empowered AEPB's Department of Environmental Conservation to establish a climate change desk that is responsible for the implementation of the action plan for mitigation and adaptation to climate change. As the world continues to experience climate change leading to unwelcome consequences, there is need to ensure environmental conservation. This is more effective when a detailed environmental impact assessment is carried out.
Ideally, as a developer, you are not expected to just cut down every tree you see within your plot. The ideal thing is to notify the authority, and then an agreed number could be cut. And that will be after taking an inventory of it. Because you may not know, maybe those particular trees are the only ones or the only species left maybe within that area. So we'll be losing biodiversity by just cutting. So we need to take inventory, and if it is a big project, you need to carry out an environmental impact assessment, which will take care of the kind of trees you have there. And then normally we also encourage people to build around the environment. Because you eventually need to have trees. You're supposed to build up not more than 2/3 of your property, of your plots. The other should be left as green, maybe just plain land, and then grass, and then maybe some trees. And then for properties that are already existing, of course, if you have a tree or a big tree around you, you need to trim it. You may not need to cut it. For instance, you need to trim it. Or even if you need to cut it, in some cases, there may be a need to cut the tree. You have to come to the board, and then we go and assess the trees, and then we'll now give you an advice. We'll decide if you really need to cut the tree, then how should it be cut? If you need to trim it, which branches should be trimmed and all that. But then you need to get a permit from us. So it is important that we be notified before such actions are taken.
So EIA is mandatory, people must do it, and they shouldn't overlook it because they don't know when the impact will be felt. It's very dangerous. It's very, very critical that you must conduct EIA. Otherwise, we'll run into problem. Go to Airport Road. People have to dump their waste outside. Because at the time they were developing, all they focused on was how many houses, how many offices, how many shops. Forgetting the fact that waste management itself should have been an integrated part of that plan. But because the emphasis is so much on buildings, and today we have a problem. People have to dump on the roads. So we have to devise other means, like creating football pitches to replace the dump sites, and of course to create screen walls to cover them. It's what you see that irritates you. I mean, if the airport will properly screen them, nobody sees it, fine. We go in and collect our waste without constituting a nuisance to the eye. So I think these are some of the challenges we are now facing today.
The consequences of a lack of environmental conservation affects everyone, hence the need for environmental stewardship among residents. This component is lacking in the FCT. There is also a rather low corporate social responsibility as it concerns the environment.
Indiscriminate cutting of trees is one major problem. Sometimes people are using the trees maybe for firewood, but a lot of times it's just wastage. They just cut it. Maybe they think they want to clear an area and they must cut down every tree. So we have such challenges. We have challenges of encroachment into the waterways, especially on developers. A lot of people feel that once there's a waterway near their property, they have a right to block it and claim it, and this is one major problem we are having. And then we have a lot of problem in the area of degradation of land. Find people just going to degrade the land, just going to excavate soil, indiscriminately, here and there within the FCC and even the FCT. Such challenges are there. And another major challenge is the way in which this one is a lot of developers do it, they break the rock outcrops. When people see a rock or a hill around their property, they just feel, oh, we have the right to just break it. No, it forms part of the city landscape, and it affects the ecosystems and the general environment, even the outlook of the FCT, when you just go breaking the rocks. So we have such problems.
Things like fruit market, there should be more of it. Again, it's a challenge that the planning department will be addressing. And I'm sure they are working on it in collaboration with Abuja Investment Company. And because while they constitute a nuisance on our walkways, people selling bananas and oranges, if you organize them and provide more fruit markets, it will help us as well. So it's complementary. If we remove certain nuisances somewhere, Parks and Recreation Department may be required to come and plant trees or do a garden. Another issue is not every park should be a private park. I mean garden. No. Some of them have to be emptied, simple green, and attractive for people to go and sit and rest. You cannot have activities in every park. For instance, you are going to Wuse Market. Every park there should be run by government, not by business people, because all those businesses attract crowd. Already the market itself is a crowd. While you can have them, the busy parks elsewhere, but not on a highway that's already busy. So for me, such parks, eventually the board may recommend that they revert back to government. They will clean these parks. Residential neighbors can come there. If you're a passerby walking on the street, you can go inside, but you cannot have busy activities on a road that leads to a market.
Up next, we visit sites where environmental conservation laws are being violated with negligence as APB officials move in to enforce compliance.
This Abuja fine no be small. Now you make plenty tourists them they like to visit this our city. Because of that, we must to make sure say everywhere they clean every time. Make we dey cut grass and flower them we don't grow for our house. Throw away dirty and yama inside dustbin. No spoil air with black smoke. That one fit cause sickness for body. If you see sockaway we don't full, make you call Abuja Environmental Protection Board quick. No follow them fight oh. Now they work then they do. Now offense to sell market for road, they beg or even do opio for night. If they catch you, you go hear am. Make we join hand together with Abuja Environmental Protection Board to see say Abuja dey clean well. Make we pay our service charge every month to make sure say Abuja dey cha-cha.
Now the FCT United Nations Development Assistance Framework, UNDAF 2, they bring on this message.
Actually, I'm talking to us because I'm also a resident of the FCT. First thing is we should try and obey the law. Let us not unnecessarily litter the city. Let us not hawk where we are told not to. Let us try and pay our waste evacuation bill, because with that you can be able to have a clean, sustainable, first-class city comparable with anyone in the world. There is no need, if the government will spend billions and billions and billions of dollars, at the end of the day, we are busy building another shanty. You help us to move away from that situation by doing your own responsibility as a member of the society.
The Environmental Conservation Department of the APB carries out routine control of environmental degradation, specifically indiscriminate tree falling, indiscriminate encroachment into waterways, indiscriminate blockage and diversion of waterways, illegal excavation of soil, sand and rocks, tampering with unique landscapes. Here are sites where APB officers have had to intervene to make sure environmental conservation laws are respected. Over 100 economic trees have been cut down here.
When we go around as district officers, we may discover things like this site that we are on. Normally, if you are going to do any project that is getting up to 2 or 3 hectares, you are supposed to prepare an EIA report which discuss everything that project is all about, examine possible problems that are associated with that project, and then mitigating method or measures to ensure that the problem is totally eliminated or reduced to the barest minimum so that the environment will not be negatively impacted on. Like this area, we got an information about it, and my HOD directed me to come and see what is happening on this site. When I came, I discovered that they have removed a lot of economic tree. As you can see, the leftover of the economic tree around here, we have cashew, we have pakia, which is locust beans, we have shea butter, we have mango tree that have been removed from this place. So we came here and we stopped them. We apprehended one of the staff and we took them under our custody. They granted him bail, and we said they should stop further action. So their case is still pending in our court. So when the case comes up, I will be there to testify to it that I've been on this side and I saw what has been done. Then they will have to be charged for the number of trees that they have fallen illegally. Then they will have to go and replant to offset whatever imbalance they have caused in the ecosystem. Then they will have to do their EIA so as to forestall any other mistakes or environmental error they will commit, so that their consultant will be able to teach them or prefer solution to any further problem. And when the consultant finish writing his report, he will have to send it to us. We will have to examine the report to see that it complies with every environmental provisions. Then it will be approved. Once it is approved, we still come back to monitor that they comply with what is written in the report, so that it will not breach it and it will not negatively impact on the environment.
And at another site, illegal sand dredgers are having a field day in the same location where a developer is illegally encroaching into the waterway.
There is a structure coming up here over the years, and by the time the board noticed this structure, we from the Environmental Conservation Department were sent to come and ascertain what was going on. We now came in and asked them. They said this is a bar. So we now say this is not possible because this is a waterway. You can see this, what we call blockage of waterway or rediversion of waterway, in the sense that the entire area is supposed to be a waterway where water is supposed to be flowing. We placed a stop work order on this structure. Asked them to bring up the papers that permitted them for this construction. In fact, on the other hand, they came up, and up to today, we have not resolved anyway. The matter has been taken up, sent to the courts as our court at Area 3. Right now, the issue is pending. I think they're working on that. And from the beginning, when we came in, we also observed illegal dredgers, sand dredging, and also working on the water body, which is illegal because it is not allowed. We don't allow such in FCT.
All these actions have direct consequences on the environment. Unfortunately, not only the violators are affected. There are reported cases where the neglect of environmental conservation laws led to flooding, which can render hundreds of families homeless and hundreds of hectares of farmland lost, along with what would have been a bountiful harvest.
From the effect of what they are doing here, you can even feel that impact on the water, because the water is not flowing frequently as it's supposed. The water is even a bit stagnant. The color alone can even show you that the water is dirty. That means the aquatic life of this area has been seriously disturbed. That means both the fishes and other living organisms have been destroyed and disturbed. If you go close to the bridges within the FCT now, you can see most of the bridges are about collapsing. They are being destroyed on a daily basis because of these illegal miners. They go there, remove the sand on a daily basis, even exposing some of our sewer lines. When you look up here, you will see a sewer line that has been removed. This is as a result of this filling. The areas that water is supposed to pass through is no longer going there. It's now rediverted to another area where it has destroyed most of APB's property, that's the sewer line. You can witness the wideness of the river naturally, but now it has been filled up by this developer here for his own personal interest. And for the fact that this area has been filled up, it has narrowed down the normal flow of water. And it has been there that every developer should give about 50 meters away from the water body to ensure free flow of water. And so that the water banks will be very, very wide enough to accommodate whatever flow that comes off, even if there is a discharge from somewhere.
Now, looking at this tree, this very tree is Pachyia biglobosa, that we call, common name is locust bean tree. Maybe this tree is not less than 10 years or thereabout, and is an economy tree because we use the fruit and the seed of this plant for locust beans. Now, apart from that, these trees that we see around, they serve as carbon sink. They help us purify our environment to let us have a purer environment. They remove carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, which are kind of greenhouse gases, and they remove odor. They release oxygen during their photosynthesis to freshen our environment. They break sound, they break wind, they serve as home or niche for birds. They produce fruit for us to eat and to sell. Then there are a lot of benefits from this. Some of these plants, they produce scent that can make our environment smell well. But all these things are being removed. Now, when you remove the land, you expose the soil to the erosion, to the weather effect that can cause negative effect on the soil, killing the organisms, causing desertification, increasing the temperature of the environment. Because if we have trees here, the sun will not be hitting directly on the soil, and then the environment here will be cooler. But as we are standing on bare soil now, the direct impact of the sun is going to the soil, and the soil is reflecting it back. The temperature of the environment will definitely increase. But if we have this plant covering, we will not have increase in temperature. And if you look at it, when Abuja was new, you will discover that the temperature is not as high as this. But a lot of construction that are taking place is making companies and the government to remove vegetation, that is deforestation, and then the temperature is increasing. We have emissions from vehicles and burning of bushes that is raising the temperature of this environment, and that is why this place is so hot and it's not a very conducive place.
Every resident of the FCT has a responsibility to their immediate environment. Ensuring environmental conservation laws are respected takes a conscious effort to desist from deliberately destroying the natural environment.
You should not go and cut a tree without asking the board for a permit, and the permit can only be issued after the tree has been assessed. Even within your environment, within your compound, within your property, even if you planted the trees, once they have been planted, they become part of the city landscape, and it becomes our responsibility to ensure their maintenance. That's why we ask that you inform us. Let us assess before you can maybe trim or cut the tree, and then do it in the right way. And then it is not right, it is against the regulations of the FCT to go and excavate sand or soil, either from land or even from the waterways, without consulting the board and getting a permit, because this constitutes degradation of the environment. And it is totally unacceptable to break the rocks within the FCT. There are places that have been earmarked for mining purposes. All other places are not for mining. So even if a rock outcrop is within your property, you should develop your property around it. You should let your design and flow into the environment. Not that the environment must always give way, because we are part of the environment and we are all dependent on the environment. And of course, for whatever information you require from the board, particularly if you are not very clear, the board is open. You can come to us and get all the necessary information to ensure that we all keep the FCT in a good environmental state.
Join forces with the government, precisely the Abuja Environmental Protection Board, to sustain, to achieve a sustainable environment, because this is our environment. This is where business is. This is where life is. If there's no environment, there's not going to be life. There's not going to be business. There's not going to be human rights. So to say, to me, I think environmental rights comes first. In other words, let us not do things that are inimical to the environment. Where we need to pay, you need to pay your waste collection services as at when due. Go ahead and do that. Do not wait for somebody to cajole you, to push you, to a mobile court before you do, the needful.
Join us next week to meet friends of the environment, true champions of sustainable environment in the FCT.